wants to know how I run multiple businesses, coach students, create content, homeschool our girls, and still have a life. So in this episode, I'm breaking down my actual weekly schedule, the real one, including how I make time for CEO work, team support, and family time without losing my mind. I'm Brandy Gar. I built one of the largest planning firms in Orlando, Florida. I homeschool our 3 girls, and now I help wedding pros build and scale profitable businesses that they actually love. Over 1,200 CEOs have gone through my program, so if you want to know how I juggle it all, let's get into it. Okay, first things first is that I break down my time into 3 defined buckets. This helps me to understand what I'm working on each day and what needs my attention. So the first bucket that we use is what I call CEO time, and this is anything that has to do with strategic growth, profitability of the business, and setting and managing goals. The second category that I have is team and client time. So this looks like one-on-one meetings with our staff, group coaching calls inside of our programs, and one-on-one support for private coaching students. And number 3 is going to be family and personal time. So this looks like homeschooling our girls, time with our family, working inside our church ministry, and of course, getting a little exercise in when I can. One thing that intrigues so many people is that we homeschool our girls. Now, let me clarify what that means for us because I think it's different for a lot of people. This is something that I was so interested in when I would see other entrepreneurs that said that they homeschool. I was like, what the heck does that mean? I could never do it. Now, here we are. So what that means for our family is that our girls go to school 2 days a week and then they're home 3 days a week. So when they're at school, that's when they're taking tests. That's when they're doing their curriculum. They're learning different things that they need to learn about their curriculum. And then on their home days, they're assigned work to do and things to learn from the teachers that they learn from while they're on school campus. So my husband and I don't have to do a lot of the teaching. So it's not traditional homeschool where we're like developing the curriculum and we're literally going on field trips with them and things like that. That's not it. 3 days a week, they're at home and we are available and need to be available to help them with the things that they're learning, the projects that they're working on, getting their work done, things like that. But I want to just be super transparent that we do not fully homeschool our girls, okay? So they're at school 2 days a week. They're home with us 3 days a week. And to be honest, this was the absolute best decision we've ever made for our family. We've done a lot of different schooling options over the years because I've always wanted to be very involved in our girls' schooling. We moved to this model 2 years ago. So we're in our 3rd year of doing this and we absolutely love it. The whole family really enjoys it because our oldest is in college. So she's home all the time, really with us. She does mostly online schooling for college. And then our other 2 are home 3 days a week with us. So the really great thing is that we have a very flexible schedule. I can get up on the days that I'm here and I can kind of go have lunch with them or we can go for a walk. We can run errands if we need to. We can go for coffee. There's lots of different things that we can do with the flexibility of all of our schedules. And so that gives us really that freedom to not have to feel that grind of 5 days a week, waking up to an alarm, getting to school, getting the homework done. And so it's just really allowed our family to enjoy this flexible schedule that we've built because our business, as many of you know, my husband and I both work full-time for our business as well. So that flexibility of schedule that I've desired for so long in our lives has really come to fruition between our business and our homeschooling. So I wanted to clear that up right from the beginning because I know that's one of the most asked questions that I get. And I think it's probably the most shocking things when people learn about me online. When they find out that we homeschool our girls, they're like, wait a second, what? And so I just want everybody to understand how we do that and how we personally make it work. But there's lots of ways for you to do it in your own family. Now that we've got that down, I want to break down what a week actually looks like for me and my businesses. And I'm going to break it down day by day so that you can take any tidbits that you hear from me and implement them into your own business. This is something that is wildly important to me is time management. I talk about it a lot inside of my programs. I talk about it a lot here on the podcast. And the reason for that is because time is our only non-renewable resource. And while it sometimes doesn't feel like it, money can always be replenished, right? Like we can always make more money. You can always go, okay, I need one more sale, and you can go hustle to get that sale to come in, right? Like you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. All of us have 24 hours. No one has more and no one has less. But how you use those 24 hours is going to determine how successful and how profitable your business will actually be. So I'm insanely passionate about using every single minute of my day to give me an ROI. And that's not always an ROI on money, right? But it's an ROI of some sort, a return on my investment. So how is this yes going to give me the best return? I have 3 girls. We have a busy life. We work in church ministry. My husband and I have a lot of things going on. We have 2 businesses. I want to make sure that every yes that comes out of my mouth, everything that I commit to, has a great ROI for that time. So sometimes it's just investing in another human being, but that needs to return. Why am I doing that? Is this a yes because I genuinely value the investment that I'm going to be able to make in this human being, or that they're going to be able to make in me? Or am I just saying yes because I feel obligated to? I do not say yes to obligations any longer. I want to make sure that every single minute is spent doing something that is going to return on that investment. All that said, let's start with Sunday. So Sunday is not a work day for me any longer. And back in the beginning of my business, it definitely was. So way back in the beginning, when I would take weddings 7 days a week, anytime somebody wanted to have a wedding, I was there. My husband asked me to stop taking weddings on Sundays. It was really challenging for him. He loved for us to all go to church together. And if I had a wedding, I obviously wasn't there. And he just really was passionate about that being a family day. So very, very early on in my career, I stopped taking weddings. However, what I would notice is that I often worked on Sunday evening. And I'm sure that if you're listening to this, you're probably like, yep, I resonate with that, because so many wedding pros think that they have to work on Sunday evening to be able to set the rest of their week up. And I am here to tell you, CEO, that that is absolutely false information, that you have been fed this lie. So the way that I do it now is I do not work on Sunday unless we're pushing out some special project. Like, there's definitely times where I'm going to need to pull my computer out for a couple of hours. Listen, if you're a wedding pro and you're still working weddings, which most of us are, right? You're typically working on a Saturday, a wedding. And so now you're like hungover, your brain is mush, your body is aching in every crevice, and you have this wedding hangover on Sunday. So what are you actually really getting done on Sunday anyway? It feels just like, oh my gosh, I have to work, otherwise the rest of the week is going to be trash, right? In reality, if you gave yourself that Sunday to really recharge, spend time with your family, have some downtime, get your brain back in working order, you would go into Monday in such a different mentality, and you would set your week up even better if you did not work on Sunday. Right? So even if you don't have a wedding on Saturday, I'm going to encourage you to really set aside Sunday as that sacred day to just recharge, and let it be yours. If you're feeling like the economy is causing you to constantly get ghosted and need to consistently drop your prices just to get bookings, I have some news for you. It's not the economy, it's your sales strategy, and I'm here to help you fix it. I created a brand new free training where I'm going to share the exact strategy I use and I teach to thousands of wedding pros who have been able to double their wedding bookings in less than 30 days using this strategy. It's called the Assume Method, and if you're not using it, you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Whether you're new, struggling, or ready to hit your next 6 figures, this training will change the game for your business. Most of us on Monday, the second your eyes open, it's like, hit the ground, let's go. But I flipped that script many, many years ago, and you probably have heard me say in the past before that Mondays are CEO Mondays for me. They're sacred. I protect Monday like my firstborn child. I'm actually kind of known for this because I absolutely, under no circumstances, 0% chance is a meeting getting scheduled on Monday with me unless it has to do with the strategic growth of our company. So what I mean by that is on Mondays, I call Mondays CEO Mondays. This means that there are no meetings scheduled unless they are an internal meeting that strategically moves our business forward. So for instance, I meet with Sophia, who is the CEO of Blush, our planning company. I meet with her once a month on Monday morning. That's because that's our time together to work as CEOs to really focus on the strategic growth of the company. What's working, what's not working, what do we need to prepare for, any changes that we need to make, all of that kind of stuff is what we're working on. So that is working on my business, not in my business. And so that is a meeting that I have on Mondays. The other meeting that I have on Mondays typically is a sales meeting. So I do meet with my sales team every single Monday, and we go over what worked and didn't work the week before, how we're pacing to sales, if there's anything that needs to change in our sales funnel, and if there's anything that we need to do coming up to make sure that we're hitting the sales goals that we've set. So I do meet with them every single Monday because that is an important meeting to the strategic growth of our company. company. Again, I'm working on my business, not in my business in that meeting. The last meeting that I take on Mondays, every other Monday, I meet with my business coach. And this is something that's so important because she's pouring into me. We are strategizing the growth of my businesses. And again, we're working on the business, not in the business. And so that's a meeting that I value on Mondays because I've dedicated that Monday to working on my business and not in my business. There are no client meetings. There are no team one-on-ones. There are no podcast recordings. There's nothing happening in my business on Monday that does not have to do with strategically growing my business. And that means that I've dedicated that day to only focusing on how we're moving our business forward. So outside of those meetings that I just discussed, some of the other things that I work on Mondays, I review financials. I'm also looking at our accounts receivable by month for the next 12 months. So once a month, I'm looking at this report, which is helping me to understand how much is coming in every single month for the next 12 months so that I can see, is it more than we need to pay all of our expenses? Is it less than we need to pay all of our expenses? Is there anything we need to do to ensure that we don't have a month where we just accidentally can't make payroll? Like that can't happen. And we've been able to eliminate that feast and famine cycle in our business because I'm taking that time to look ahead, know what's coming, understand what months are going to be rough, understand what months are going to be up, and really plan for those ahead of time and make decisions whether I need to maybe do a promotion or do some sort of a marketing push to get more leads coming in the doors to ensure that we meet those revenue numbers that we've set. You guys, if you're not doing check-ins on your goals, you're not going to meet them. So how are you pacing to your goals? What are the goals that you set at the beginning of the year? How are they going? Are there any tasks that need to be completed this week for those goals? Are you behind? Are you ahead? Do you need to move the goalpost because you've already achieved that goal? Do you need to set new ones? Do you need to adjust your plan because you're not meeting the goal? Those are things that I look at every single Monday. I want to understand, what do I need to do this week to ensure that we're meeting the goals and making sure that we hit those by the end of the year? Because again, if you set it in January and don't check in again until December, you're not going to meet that goal. The last thing I do before I log off for the day is I just set up the rest of my week. So I want to look ahead at the next 4 days or 5 days, depending on what you have on your schedule. And I want to see, do I have any double bookings? Do I have any appointments that are too close together? Do I have any big chunks of white space where I can put a project in that I need to work on? Do I have all of my time blocked for the entire week that I can make sure that I don't have a mishap during the week of like, oh no, I double booked myself, or oh no, these appointments are running into each other. I want to make sure that everything that I need to work on is blocked into my week so that I know going into the rest of the week, I feel good about what the week looks like. Of course, there's always times where things are going to get thrown in, and that's okay. That's life. That's entrepreneurship, business ownership. But I want you to make sure that you've set that week up so that you can really look ahead and see what your week is going to look like. And you kind of go into each day knowing it's been set up correctly. And then on the personal side, every single Monday, typically around 5 or 6 p.m., I head to Pilates. Now, this is something that I'm well aware is a privilege, but for me, this is something that I have not prioritized literally my entire life until last year. I've never prioritized exercise. I say I'm going to do it, then I don't. And it's the one thing that I would get down on myself about. So I could be crazy successful in the business, but I would go to bed thinking what a sloth I was, like how I felt so gross. And that's not a body image thing. That was more, I knew better. Like I know, hello, Brandy, you're in your 40s. You need to do a better job of taking care of yourself, of moving your body, of strengthening your body, of having flexibility. Otherwise, it's all going to go away, right? And so when I say I was a sloth or I felt gross, that wasn't necessarily a body image thing. It was more just, I knew better. Like I know better and I want to take care of my body because if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of my business. And so for me, this was something that I finally said, enough is enough. If I don't go somewhere to do the exercise, I'm not going to do it because I have all the exercise equipment you can imagine here in my house. I just don't do it because I make a reason. I make an excuse. But with Pilates, one, it's across the street from my house, so I can literally walk to it if I want to. I don't, but I can walk to it if I want to. But it's dedicated time that I've set aside in my schedule, and it makes me close my computer, log off, and go. It also sets a time frame, a beginning and an end to my day. So a lot of times before, when I didn't have Pilates, I would kind of work, the girls would be doing schoolwork or they'd be watching TV or doing something on their own anyway. So I would just keep working until dinner. And that wasn't healthy. And I really didn't love that about myself. So this makes me shut my computer and go to Pilates. It clears my head. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel powerful. When I go to bed at night, it makes me think, okay, I not only built my business today, but I also built myself. Like I poured into myself. Almost every Monday, unless I'm traveling, I go to Pilates. I typically go 3 days a week. It's almost a non-negotiable on Mondays because Monday's such a deep thinking day. My brain feels so crazy by the end of the day because I've been strategic all day that I really need that time to kind of like release the day. And so if you're somebody who also is like, I hear you, Brandy, I want to prioritize my exercise, but I just haven't, I would just encourage you to figure out why you're not. And for me, it was accountability. It's also fairly expensive. I'm not going to lie. It's something that we had to really think about. Can we do this? And is it worth it? My husband was all in because he knows like I need that accountability. But because it's expensive, if I miss a class, we're like throwing that money away. And so I'm accountable really to my husband. Like he sees it on our calendar. And if I just say, oh, I just decided not to go tonight, he knows we're getting charged for that class anyway. And I feel guilty. Like that's such a waste of a resource. And so he's never going to say anything to me, but it makes me accountable to him. And then it makes me also accountable to myself. But having that accountability for me is something that I need in my life. And so I would just encourage you, if there's something where you're struggling, to really decide what's going to make me put my health first and make me not just feel healthy, but also feel that powerful, feel strong and empowered, because that's going to affect how you show up for your business as well. Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the week. These are a lot simpler. So Tuesdays and Thursdays look exactly the same. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my client-facing days. So back when I had weddings, these would also be my client-facing days. And so for me, what I love about this is it leaves Wednesday in between to do to-dos, like to have an office day. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are client-facing days. So now I don't have weddings any longer. I don't take weddings for our company any longer. But what client work looks like for me is working one-on-one with our private coaching students, doing coaching calls inside of our group programs, and working with our team to make sure that they have everything that they need to support our students as well. It also looks like for me nowadays is guest podcasting on other podcasts or showing up to teach in someone else's program. So what that looks like for me is our girls are on campus at their school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm up early, I get a shower, get ready for the day, get them to school. I'm back by around 8 o'clock, finish getting ready, toddle around my house, doing, making the bed, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm at my desk by 9. That's really, really important on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm at my desk by 9. And from 9 to 9:45, I'm doing a couple things. One, I'm checking in on all of our Slack channels. So all of my businesses and all of my team members and all of our high-level students are inside of Slack. So for me, this is kind of my hub. This is where I check in. I make sure that everybody's being supported, that everybody has answers to anything that they need. I'm doing a quick check-in on that. I'm also doing a very, very quick check-in on our sales dashboard. So I want to make sure, did anything come in overnight that I need to take a look at? Is the dashboard working correctly? I literally spend 2 or 3 minutes reviewing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I met with my sales team on Monday already. But this is just a quick thing that I do really every single morning is check in on our sales dashboard just to make sure everything's working correctly and looks good. And then the last thing that I do in that 45-minute time span is I'm checking in on social media. So I'm answering DMs, I'm engaging with other accounts, I'm posting anything that I need to personally post, like a story that our social media team isn't handling. So that's what I'm doing in those 45 minutes. And you may be kind of thinking Brandy, I didn't hear you talk about email at all so far. When do you have time to check emails? Stick around to the end. I'm going to share with you my inbox management strategy to help you to totally maximize your time during the week. So from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I am on back-to-back calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every single Tuesday and Thursday, we stack those calls. And that's because I want to focus on the same type of work at one time. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 4, I wake up and I know my day is going to be client facing. So I have a different kind of energy. I'm ready for the strategy for them. I'm not thinking about my own business on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm thinking about how am I supporting my students? What is the strategy that they need? So Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 4, I'm on back-to-back calls. And those calls typically look like either a live coaching on Instagram or here on YouTube, TikTok, wherever we're going live, it's going to be a live coaching. It would be a coaching call inside of our group program. So I love coming inside of our group programs and coaching live, doing hot seats. And then it's also one-on-one strategy meetings with our high-level private coaching students. And so that is what I do from 10 to 4 every Tuesday and Thursday. It's stacked back to back. And then at 4 o'clock, I do a quick check-in in Slack. Again, make sure everybody's been answered and supported. Anything that needs to be quickly answered, I can do. And then I'm either off to Pilates or off to take a walk with my husband or just off for the day, which feels so good. Wednesdays for me are an office day. So back when I had weddings, this would be an office day where I would do to-dos from the meetings I had on Tuesday, or I would work on timelines. I would work on any kind of things that were client-facing work. So the difference between Monday and Wednesday is that my work on Wednesday is client-facing work. On Mondays, it's all internal business work, but on Wednesdays, it's client-facing work. So it's still an office day, but it's client-facing work. Now that I don't have weddings, typically what I'm working on Wednesdays is content recording. So I record almost 100% of our podcast episodes or YouTube episodes that you're watching right now on Wednesdays. So I wake up, I know I've got to get in full hair and makeup. I go straight into recording whatever podcast or YouTube is coming up next, or sometimes I'll batch a couple of them. Then I also create any video content that our social media team needs. So they send me an entire list of all of the content that I need to create for the upcoming week, and I create that on Wednesdays. So all day Wednesday, I am recording content. That's what I know that I need to do that day. If I'm going to guest on someone else's podcast, we typically try to schedule it on this day as well because I've already got all the podcast equipment out. So it's great to go ahead and just be focused all day on that kind of things. I typically don't take meetings on Wednesdays. I can if I have the ability to, but this is really where I want to focus on the marketing of my business. This is really where I want to focus on the podcasting, the content, things like that I'm getting out. So for me, Wednesdays are content production day. And then Fridays for me are what I call a catch-up day. So again, back when I had a client load of weddings, kind of trying to give you guys both what my life looks like now and what it looked like when I had weddings so that you can kind of understand how to adapt this to your own schedule. So Fridays were always what I would call a catch-up day. If I had a client in from out of town, I definitely could schedule meetings, but it wasn't ideal. I only scheduled meetings on Fridays if I needed to based on a client's schedule. The other thing that I love to do on Fridays, and the reason I call it a catch-up day is because life, right? Like everyone always says, okay, Brandy, I time blocked my whole week, but then like life happened and stuff got shifted. And that's really why I love to leave Fridays open, because if there's anything that got pushed from earlier in the week because of an emergency or because of something running overtime, whatever it is, I can then reschedule that to Friday and get it done on Friday. Also, when you have weddings, typically if you have a wedding on Saturday, you're prepping to some degree on Friday, right? So Fridays when you're checking your emergency kit, you're checking that your playlist is set up, you're making sure that all of your equipment is set up and ready. You're possibly going to go run a rehearsal. So those are kind of things that you're doing in the afternoon. In the morning is when I spend that catch-up time. The other thing that I do every Friday is check my inbox. So I told you guys that I would share with you the email strategy that we use inside of my business. This is something we've been doing for about a year now. And I will say that this is probably the number one game changer that I've done as the CEO to really maximize my time and take back my time. So Dan Martell, he's the author of Buy Back Your Time, one of my favorite books. He talks about how your inbox is basically allowing other people to steal your time from you. And the reason for that is because we all live in our inbox all day long, right? Like we have it on, we hear it ding, we check it 30 times a day, and it's ways that other people can get into your brain and steal your time. You either see something that kind of like tanks your mood because you're like, oh, that's a crappy email, or you're just like, oh my gosh, I have all these things that I need to do. And so you're constantly doing those instead of doing the strategic work that you set aside. I now only check my emails on Friday mornings. And I know some of you are like, this sounds crazy and this is not possible, but let me share how I do it now and how I would have done it as a wedding pro when I still had a full client load of weddings. Because we've only been doing this for a year, so I really didn't practice this when I had a full client load of weddings, but I'm 100% positive that I wish I would have known about this strategy then because it would have saved me so much time. So if you've not listened to anything else in this episode, but you're still here, I want you to listen to how we do this. So now the way it works in my business is that my assistant checks the inbox. She manages the inbox every single day, and she flags anything for me that only I can answer. So there's a certain tag that we use inside of our email system, and it says only Brandy can answer. And it's red, so it's easy for me to spot. She knows that on Friday mornings, I'm going to go in first thing, and I'm going to check all of those emails that have that tag. And that's the only emails that I'm checking. And then I'm leaving. That's it. I'm not going in and looking at things that she needs to file or that she's waiting for a response to. No, I'm only checking them the things that she has specifically flagged as only I can answer. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Brandy, but sometimes emails need to be answered faster than that. And you're right. She typically can answer about 90% of the emails that come into my inbox. So most of the time she's answering and she's saying, hey, so-and-so, this is Allie. I'm answering for Brandy, right? And she gets them whatever answer that they needed. She fixes whatever they needed, whatever the email was about, she's handling it. The only things that she flags for me are going to be something that like a student sends that I may need to answer directly. Or if it's something that she's genuinely not sure how to answer, she'll flag it for me and I'll copy her back on the response so she'll know for next time. Now, every once in a while, something comes into the inbox that is more urgent than that and she can't answer it. So she'll Slack me and say, hey, there's an email in the inbox I need you to pop in and get to because it needs to be answered today. And so that's easy. I can certainly make 5-10 minutes to do that day. But the general rule is that I'm not going to check emails until Friday. She knows that. So if it's something that has to be answered before Friday and she can't answer it, then she's just going to Slack me so that I can quickly do that. I would say that happens maybe once a month. So for the most part, I'm checking my email for 30 minutes max on Fridays. And now my inbox does not suck my soul every single day, every single minute of every single day. Now, back when I had a full client load of weddings, here's how I would have used this. I would have used it in the exact same way. Now, I probably would have checked my emails more than just once on Fridays. I probably would have checked it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, because on Monday, your assistant hasn't gotten to it yet. So now you're going to see all of the junk that's in there that you shouldn't necessarily be looking at. That's why I check it on Fridays, because I want to make sure that Allie has had time to get all the junk away and flag anything she really needs me to look at so that I'm not going in there and seeing all these emails, right? I just really see the handful that I need to answer. I wouldn't check it on Mondays. Actually, I'd make sure that your assistant can get it in there first, but I would have had an assistant who's well-trained in my business that can answer. Think about how many emails you get into your inbox that is a client just needing a quick answer to something, or they need the address of a vendor, or they need contact information for a vendor, or they need to know what vendor you would recommend for XYZ. Like, think about how many questions could be answered by someone else on your team that you do not need to spend your CEO time answering. And that's what I want you to think about, CEO. I really want you to understand that you think you're the only person who can answer your emails, but you're not. And it took time. Don't get me wrong. It took me time to train my assistant to be able to answer those emails in the way that I would have answered them. And we worked through it. It took us a couple months. Now I'm telling you, I do not check my email outside of Friday mornings, and it takes me less than 30 minutes. In the beginning, it took us some time. I would go in there a couple days a week. I would help her to understand how she could answer a question better. I would say, hey, you could have probably answered this on your own. Here's how you could have answered it. Here's where you could find that answer. But the more that I trained her, the better she has become at it, right? So it's pouring into that training and understanding that your inbox should not run you. You have to run your inbox. So having someone else be that first line of defense to get everything out of your inbox and only flag the things that only you can answer is going to be a game changer. I absolutely love this Ask Me Anything episode. And if you have a question that you want answered here on the podcast, just head over to weddingproceo.com/podcast and drop your question there. We have a form about halfway down that says, ask me a question you want answered on the podcast. Drop your question there and we will do an Ask Me Anything episode just like this one so that you can get answered everything you want to know, the real and the raw, about building and scaling a profitable wedding business. You guys, thank you so much for being here every single week, and I will see you next time.